What is up, everybody? We are live again. Teacher Appreciation Week. Teachers, educators, we're going live every night this week, just trying to give you as much value as possible. And tonight, we got a lot of value because right next to me on the screen, we have an amazing educator, somebody that is just completely influential in my life. Personally and professionally. She doesn't even know the impact that she has had on me, but she's going to find out soon. So sit back, grab something cold to drink, relax, grab a pen and a paper, and on the other side of this amazing promo music, the one and only P. Sloan Joseph is going to rock our world. So be ready, everybody. I'll see you on the other side. Back on the other side of that music gets me smiling, gets me ready to go each and every time. It's like that Sports Center music. When I hear it, I know I'm about to see some highlights, and tonight is a night of highlights because Sloan, you are here to grace us all with your wisdom and your just all of that good stuff that I know you're going to bring.
I hope so.
Oh, I know so. You and I have had the opportunity to connect like this before. And you poured into me, and it's stuff that I continue to reflect on. When we connected last time, I was actually hanging out in Rhode Island, just completely off the grid. Okay. And I had to drive home the next day, and I had 12 hours of just your thoughts rolling around in my head. And it sounds like it would be kind of like this torturous thing to have thoughts just bouncing around in my head, but it was so much value, and it was just so incredible. And that's why you're here again tonight, because you bring so much value to so many people. And in Teacher Appreciation Week, we want teachers to know that they are so appreciated. We're going to continue to provide them free value. And that's why you're here. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. How
Do you mind just taking a minute? I'm doing great. Can you just take a minute and introduce yourself to people that might be meeting you for the first time here?
Yes, I am P. Sloan Joseph, and most people just call me Sloan, and I'm an instructional technology coach. And from South Carolina, I live in the upstate Greenville area. I have 18 years of experience as an educator, and I've done several different things: teaching, administration, testing coordinator, lots of different types of schools. And at this point in my career, I've done most of my time in middle school, but I've done K-4 through 12th grade. I am a wife, a mom. I'm a podcaster. My podcast is Greater Is in Me. So go check that out on all of the platforms. And I just love the opportunity to inform, inspire, and influence people to just fulfill the greatness that exists within. We all have it, and we just take every day to kind of tap into it. So that's what I'm all about.
So good. And you are reaching people coast to coast, just so you know that. You're in one of the most beautiful parts of the country. They're in Greenville, South Carolina, which I don't know if I told you this before, but I actually spent a week there reviewing Greenville schools probably 7 or 8 years ago, and just fell in love, not just with the geography, but the people there. So yeah, and the fried green tomatoes. That was a selling point for me. But you're reaching you're reaching people in California, up here in Michigan, all over the place. So just keep being you. And anybody else that's joining us, let us know where you are, where you're from, and what you do, because today this is going to be an interactive conversation. I got no problem stealing the show and asking all the questions that I want to ask, but this is also your opportunity to ask questions of the great P. Sloan Joseph. Now, Sloan, you are here today to talk about coaching in the new normal. Coaching today, coaching tomorrow, coaching into next year, what it's like, what teachers need, how you can infuse wisdom. Just drop some nuggets here. What is coaching, and why is this such an important topic?
I think well, for me, coaching is having someone that sees your strengths, sees the areas where you've decided that you want to grow, and they're willing to walk alongside you to help you in that growth and to continue to affirm you in the things that you do well. And it's just like what we do as teachers with our students, but it's the adult version of that. And so you set those professional goals or your personal goals, and you're very clear about that. And then walking that out to make sure that whatever you're saying goes back to your school goals and goes back to what's best for students. And so for me, what I enjoy about it is seeing that growth, especially I really, really like working with new teachers, like the first through fifth year teachers that are coming out and really implementing what they've learned either in a college program or those that are career changers, but also helping our more seasoned teachers find new skills that they can use to make sure that they're doing what's best for kids. And what I hope to be able to do now and in the future is to diminish this stereotype or this thought process that the longer you teach, you don't need a coach. When I think about entertainers, when I think about athletes, actors, singers, all of them have coaches, voice coaches, acting coaches. They have coaches along with them for sports. And so even the greats have someone that continues to push them so they go from good to better to best.
So first of all, thank you for calling those of us that are seasoned and not old.
Yes.
I appreciate that. That already makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Yes.
So thank you for that. And I'm going to go back to one of the first things you said when you were introducing this idea of coaching and how it's building on the strengths of individuals. I feel like that is in direct conflict to the way a lot of educators are treated or experience coaching or evaluation or feedback cycles today. I feel like there's a lot of people that experience that deficit mentality where they feel like other adults are coming into their rooms or supporting them through looking for their weaknesses to try to make their weaknesses average, as opposed to trying to take their gifts and make them exceptional. So why do you go about it looking at this strength-based mindset?
Because no one wants to hear the bad all the time. Like, we all have room to grow. So I'm going to give you feedback. But my goal when I walk in is to be able to give you more positives than those areas for improvement. And then I do believe that whatever you water will grow. And so if I continue to talk about what you're doing well, then they're going to continue to do that. And hopefully they'll see, okay, that's not too far from this thing that we have that we might need to work on a little bit more. But nobody wants to hear bad news all the time. And so when you affirm someone, you're building their confidence and you're building trust. And so when there is times that you are going to have to give them some type of feedback or correction, I think they're more likely to take that. And especially if it, again, goes back to their personal goals, which should be tied to the school goals, which should be what's in best interest of children. I think if we don't do those things, if what we're doing doesn't go back to school goals and what's best for children, then it's hard to get people to move in those areas where they need improvement. But we have to start with affirmations. And it's kind of like that whole saying, the kids don't care what you know until they know that you care. It's the same concept when you're coaching.
Yeah, 1,000%. I would even argue that feedback is not necessarily as critical. A lot of times feedback could be and should be those affirmations, because as educators, I know we are so self-critical. We see a lot of our flaws. We see the things that we need to be doing better. And oftentimes we glance over those things that we're actually doing really, really well. And sometimes we just need somebody to pull that out and let us know those things that we are doing exceptionally well, so that one, we can feel it, and two, so that we can repeat it. When those things are called out on us, we repeat those behaviors. It's the same thing we do with kids, with schools everywhere that have embraced the PBIS mindset. You focus on those positive behaviors and hope that they repeat. It's what we do when we're training our pets, is we focus on the positives, right? Yeah. It's the same thing for us. We want people to acknowledge those positives. Yeah, I love that. But then you took it a step further and you said it's also about building relationships, that we need positive relationships with each other. Why does that matter?
I think that the foundation of any relationship is trust. Like, when you think about my relationship with me and my husband. He wouldn't be my husband if when we were dating, I didn't trust him and he didn't compliment me. And if all he ever said was critical things. Now he is going to call me out on things that he knows that I'm not fulfilling my greatness. And that's why he's my husband. But he definitely gives me more affirmations. And so, like I said, when he does have to call out something, he's like, now, you shouldn't have said that. I'm like, you know what? You're right. And also he knows how to say that in a way that I am receptive, but that takes time. And then also as a coach, understanding that everybody's at different places and that adults carry their own trauma and their own issues. And so what I have to check myself a lot is understanding that if someone has trust issues in their personal life, they may bring that to their professional life. And so even if I'm trying to build that, it just may be something that they have to work through. So the way that I may be able to interact with one teacher or group of teachers may not be how I can do it all across the board. So you really have to be flexible in your ways of approach, just like you would with kids. It's just like differentiation.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. I'm thinking in my current role right now, I don't have anybody that's a designated coach in my life. I don't have anybody that has that title of coach who gets to come in and their sole purpose is to provide me feedback and help grow me. But I do have people in my life that I look at through that lens. Yesterday, I was just talking to Jeff Gargas, and I mentioned him. Talk about Ray Hewitt as well. Two people that have the ability to call me out when it's necessary, but they're able to do it because I know that they're focusing on the actions and they're not identifying me as an individual as flawed, that they can see that my outcomes can be improved. Right. As a coach in schools, you are surrounded by amazing educators every single day. You are surrounded by teachers who signed up for the job to change destinies and to change lives. But at the same time, you have this role because we can all get better. We can all improve. None of us is perfect. We all have opportunities to continue to grow. So I'm curious, when you said that you really enjoy working with new teachers, those teachers that are fresh out of college or fresh out of their own experience. How do you reach across the aisle and exhibit this trust and encourage transparency and vulnerability? What are some of those key tenets to actually forming a positive relationship?
Well, really just understanding, like, you're talking about people coming out of college who may be 21, 22, 23. They're still trying to figure out things themselves. And so just taking people for where they are. And again, going back and getting to know what is it that you do outside of work? What gives you joy? What causes you anxiety? What are those things in the summertime that you want to do? What do you want to bring into the classroom? How do you want to grow? Going back to what are your goals? Like, why did you go to college to be an educator? Getting to the root of their story. And then also sharing my story with them. Another reason that I said career changers is because I was a career changer. And I worked in human resources and finance before I became a teacher. And that has helped me and served me well. But that was a transition. And so understanding where people are, meeting them where they are, and letting them know, I'm not asking you to do what the teacher across the hall is doing. He has taught for years, and they've taught at different kinds of schools, and they have different degrees, because comparison can be it steals your joy. You know what I'm saying? And so I just want to focus on making them feel competent, like building their confidence and letting them know, I got you. Like, I'm not here for the I got you, like that kind of I got you, the negative I got you. I want them to know I got you. Like, if I have to come in here, if I have to plan with you, if I have to help you prepare, whatever it is, you're not by yourself. You still have that support. But just communicating that to me, because everybody needs something different, and letting them know that their students just want them to love them and care for them. And again, they don't care what you know until they know that you care. If you start there and build up, it's going to be fine. And what you do year 1, year 2, you're going to get better and better and better. So don't be so hard on yourself. Just give yourself some grace and some space for some support.
Well, first of all, I love the difference between I got you and I gotcha. I gotcha has a much different connotation than I got you. When we separate them out, it's powerful. I gotcha is equally as powerful, but oftentimes
very
much
negative.
more dismissive. Absolutely. So you talk about grace. So I want to go here for a second because grace has become a buzzword over the last 14, 15 months.
Yes.
If we were to go back to what schools look like March 2020, April 2020, everybody was saying we simply needed to afford grace to teachers and that everybody deserved grace. And when I heard that, initially I was all in on that and said, absolutely, we just need to assume the best out of people and assume that everybody has the best of intentions. And if things don't work out, it's okay. But then the summer of 2020 kicked in and we started seeing that grace started to disappear. It started to disappear pretty quickly and the expectations were raised. We're at a place right now, a year later, 15 months since the world got flipped upside down. And I'm wondering, when you hear the term grace and you say that teachers need grace, we need to give each other grace. What do you mean by that? Because I have a definition in my head. I'm curious what yours is.
When I say grace, I want people to understand that that doesn't mean that you see something going on and you don't say something about it. It's that you say something about it, but it's the way that you say it. Understanding your tone and your timing. Is this a good time? You see this teacher having a really stressful day. Is this the best time to have that conversation? What about your tone? Like, how are you coming at that person? What is your intention for that conversation? And when you're giving people grace, even if you have to say something, you have to call something out. If you're calling it out, are you willing to support them as they do it? It's just like, calling out a problem, but you want that person to fix it. If you're going to call out the problem, do you have a few solutions for that person, or are you calling it out and asking them to fix it? To me, the grace comes as a part of a relationship. I'm giving you grace. I'm going to address it, but I've got you. And we're going to work on this together. And I see that you're having a hard day, so I'm not going to talk to you about that right now. We're going to talk about it, but now is not the time. And I need to find the right way to say what I need to say so that you're hearing my words and my heart and you're not listening to my body language and all of these other things that kind of get misconstrued. So for me, I think some people think that grace is like, oh, well, we'll just let everything slide. It also, as an instructional coach, is what can I take off of teachers? Is this absolutely necessary to do today? Can we put this off another week? Is there a different way to do it that's a little bit more effective, more efficient? Just really thinking those things through, taking things off and not adding things on unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. Mike Sapanic agrees with you that this idea of grace, especially as you just defined it and described it, sounds a lot like compassion, sounds a lot like courtesy, sounds a lot like respect, another one of those buzzwords that we use all the time. And it sounds to me like one of those evergreen concepts that we need to hold on to far into the future, beyond the pandemic. We still need to be affording your definition of grace. But I also think that there are some people out there that do believe grace is a free pass, that it's the turn the other cheek mentality and assume that all is good and just assume that everybody is truly doing the absolute best they can. So I'm going to push back, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. I've heard a lot of people tell me I'm doing the best they can. And when I hear that, there's a part of me that thinks that that's just an excuse to not do more, or that's an excuse to say why you can't do better. I think that there's a difference between having grace and providing grace to somebody and providing empathy to somebody. I think grace is super easy to give out to people if we're talking about a free pass. When you give grace to somebody, it's just like, yeah, forget it. You can move on. I'll let you just do a redo. Empathy is harder for us because empathy requires us to do the work and find out the story. What I just heard from you is that we have to learn the story from people. We have to pour into people, which is why relationships matter, because relationships require us to lean in and hear what's happening with somebody, learn their story, figure out what makes them tick, learn if they've got a spouse, if they've got kids, what's going on at home, so that we can stand alongside of them. And I feel like that's one of your gifts, is that you form these relationships with people so that you can have empathy with people.
I try. I do my best. I tell people all the time, the way that I was raised is not the way that the kids that I advocate for was raised. I wasn't raised in poverty. My parents live in the same house since I was in the 4th grade. Like if I owe anybody money from like middle school, high school, they could just roll up to my parents' house and ask my mom and dad, like same phone number, everything. So when I deal with transient students, I don't know that life. I don't know about not having my needs being met and even my wants. Like, I had a really good life. So I have to be empathetic to advocate for those students. So you have to be willing to listen. And I never even thought about the way that you're talking about grace and empathy. So I really like that. But I do want to say this. People have to be willing to receive that.
Mm.
And, the honest part, I've been in this 18 years and I've tried with certain people to learn their story, to get to know them. And sometimes people don't want that. That empathy is uncomfortable for them. Like, grace is uncomfortable for them. Telling their story is uncomfortable for them. And they don't want to share that. And I think that a part of being an instructional coach is respecting that people have certain boundaries that they don't want to have crossed. And so, again, it's nothing against me as a person. I've tried, but we have to be willing to respect people's boundaries.
Yeah.
Even when they're trying to tell their stories, they may not be willing to share certain things with their students or relate to their students in that way. So again, just really like that phrase, read the room. You got to be able to read the room. And some people are not there yet. And so just meeting people where they are and really just sending as much positive energy to those that are willing to accept it and hoping that it becomes a culture and it catches on. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes total sense. So speak to me as though I'm a classroom teacher. As an instructional coach, your job is to make me better. But you just said you can only do that if I give you something as well. What are the things that you need from me?
I need you to be okay with me coming in your room. And I need you to not assume that I'm there to highlight what you're doing wrong. I have in the past, I will stay until I can find several positive things. And sometimes, let's be honest, that can be challenging in certain classrooms. And so a walkthrough that's supposed to only take like 15, 20 minutes, it's like, if I left now, all I can say right now is thank you for showing up today. Like, what I'm saying? Thank you for dressing professionally, that kind of thing. And so I will stay 30 minutes, the whole class period. And some of my coworkers will tell you, like, I sit there positive way. How can I say this so this thing? But how can I say this in a way that doesn't break this person, but they're willing to still trust me in the building process? So, that's something that I need from teachers. I need teachers to be, I need them to continue to read and develop themselves, not just in the things that they're comfortable with, but in those things that challenge them. Just like we ask our students every day to do something new. Like, I'm a middle school person, so our kids have 6 classes a day. They walk in 6 different people's rooms, and those 6 people ask them 6 times a day to try something that they probably don't like. Mm-hmm. And so just pushing ourselves to step out and do new things. And again, know that I'm there with you every step of the way. That's really what I need for teachers. That helps me. And then I need them to be honest about their feelings. Like, if you're not having a good social emotional day, just say that. If you need me to come sit in your room and be like some backup, just say that. I'd much rather you do that than to throw it up and throw it out on a kid. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need you to be, I'd much rather you come to my office and throw it up and throw it out and just go, I got that out, I can go on in, than to do that to a child and damage a child. Cause I can take it cause I'm an adult. And so I think those are just a few things. I mean, I could go on and on, but if teachers could just do those things and just be honest about how they feel and what they need help with, and not always see the bad when a coach comes in. Because I'm not the kind of coach that like runs to the principal. Like, I have another coach at my school. And so I'll talk to her about different things. But it's not my goal to go run and tell, because my job is to help to develop so that we are going from good to better to best.
That's awesome. That's awesome. As you were speaking, I was reminded, recently I was talking to a common friend of ours, Becky Schnexer. The woman who helps organize all the amazing speakers on the Speakers Bureau.
So much energy. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And so much wisdom. But
she does.
She's this scientist. She teaches science to little kids. And she reminded me that every teacher is a scientist, because science in its truest form is trying to be less wrong every day.
Oh.
That's what science is all about. It's just trying to get closer and closer and closer to the truth. And as educators, as teachers, that's what we're after as well. We are after being less wrong every day or getting better every day. But you can only do that if you admit that today is not perfect. Today is going to have some wrong in it. And so I love what you just said, that you're in there really trying to be this reflective lens for teachers, helping them identify some of those corners that just need to be rounded and helping them stand off some of those rough edges so that they can be better and better every single day. That's so good. So good. So with that mindset, though, this past year, 15 months, is a time period that I think we can all agree it's been kind of a mess. There's been a lot that's gone wrong over the last 15 months, but there's also some beauty in it. I don't know if you've ever heard the quote from Michelangelo when he was asked how in the world he was able to make the amazing statue of David out of this big rock. And he said, well, I always saw David in the rock. And they said, well, how did you know how much to chisel away? And he said, I just kept chiseling away everything that didn't look like David. So that's deep, isn't it? So I'm thinking through this last year and a half. This last year and a half has been a big boulder. It's been a big rock. But there has been some good in it. There has been some stuff that we have learned that we need to hold on to. Do you have things in your head that you've identified and you say, ooh, I hope that we can hold on to this?
I hope that we can hold on to Zoom PD.
Okay.
I think that what has caused some people to not go to PD is the cost of it. It's not that people didn't want to learn, but when you think about the cost of taking off to get a sub, trying to make sub plans, we all know how that is. It's like, is it worth going if I got to do this? Transportation to get there, hotel, food, all of these things, and then registration for the conferences. So I hope that we still offer free PD via Zoom. It's something that I hope that we continue to do.
Like what we're doing tonight. Yeah, I
gotcha.
gotcha.
Like what we're doing tonight. Right. I think that different types of menu options for PD. So like at my school, we'd have some things where it's self-paced. It's like you watch a video, we find a video, a webinar, people sign up for that, and then they do a reflection, they do an implementation. It's not everybody comes, sits, and I talk to them, and then it's not like that, unless it's something that's required. I think that the way that we've taken Twitter chats to another level as a form of PD. I think what happened was a lot of people were looking for outlets to communicate with people. So they started joining Twitter and increasing their PLN. I hope that we take that with us going forward. And I think I also want to see more teachers that are doing it in the classroom. Like I'm an instructional coach, and this year it's hard for me to get into classrooms because of mask and 6 feet and, limitations on who could be in the room. But I like to co-teach. I like to do what I call learning labs, where I teach a lesson and people can come in and watch me teach, so that it's not just me saying, well, this is what you should do. I think you should try this strategy. I'm suggesting things that I'm willing to model. But I really want to empower teachers that are doing it every day to start letting people come in your room and see you live and in action with the students in your school. Because sometimes when we see things in PDs and webinars, we're like, ooh, could that work at my school? Well, it's going to work in your school. If you're working with that group, then the person across the hall coming to see you says, oh, that's the same group of kids I have. I can do that. It empowers your whole community when we start to share our teaching with one another. Because we do a lot of talking in meetings about what we're going to do. But what we as educators don't do is watch each other teach enough. And when you think about lawyers get a chance to watch each other in the courtroom and see different strategies. They don't talk about it, they actually observe it. Doctors get a chance to see one another in action. I want us to see more of us in action. That's what I really, really would love as far as PD is concerned. I think those are the good things we can take with us.
No, that was so good.
I'm sorry, like my phone is about to die, so I'm walking and I'm talking with you, but I gotta go get my charger. So go ahead.
You do your thing. I'll fill the void here. You're fine. But I feel like what you just described was we need to eliminate some of the barriers. And I'll even mute you while you walk. How's that? We need to eliminate some of the barriers to entry that we've had for so long. I mean, Zoom has been around for years, but people just weren't sure how to access it yet. The idea of having voice and choice in professional learning, that has been a real thing for a long time that not everybody fully utilized. But we're at the place now where everybody has kind of been thrown into the deep end and realized that these things can exist, and they're magical and they're powerful for learners. We've got, like, again, people from coast to coast recognizing they wouldn't be a part of the magic happening with the Teach Better team if it weren't for these opportunities. They're enjoying live PD on their couch right now because of these opportunities. There's powerful things that are happening right now when we embrace what real learning is all about. And the reality is, again, I've said this before, but the pandemic did not necessarily bring out new situations to us. It simply put a magnifying glass on the struggles we've always had and the opportunities that have always existed. Because what you just described is adult learning needs. And we've known for a long time the things that adults need in order to learn. They need to have choice. They need to have content that is specific to their needs. They need to be able to pick and choose when they do it, how they do it, and it needs to be intrinsically motivated. We don't need carrots and sticks to say, go do something. And what you just described is that. We say we have best practices for kids. What I heard you say is we need to start focusing on the adults now too, and simply embracing best practice for adults. And I love that. Love it, love it, love it.
I also want to add, like, what I'd like for us to take, where I was just talking about, like, PD and what we need to take for adults. But when it comes to our children, I think it highlighted for a lot of us some of the inequities that our children experience. And so we might have been assigning homework to students who don't have Wi-Fi. And I know in the district where I work, we were able to provide a lot of children hotspots. And so I hope that we'll continue to do that as we go forward. Other things we were able to do was to provide free lunch, free meals, so breakfast and lunch for our students. And that's going to actually continue into next year. Those are things that were unheard of before. If you didn't have Wi-Fi at home, like, you had to just find it and figure it out. If you didn't have meals, we have community, organizations that help out, and our schools help out a lot because of donations. But it's really districts taking it on and saying, you know what, let's do whatever we can to help our students have their basic needs met so that they can feel physically safe, which leads to social emotional safety, which leads to academic safety and success. So I hope that we continue to support our students, no matter their zip code, no matter the choices their parents have made or are making or will make in the future, that we will do everything we can to help our students be trendsetters, and that they will be able to be successful and be able to be socially responsible and economically responsible for their families, themselves, and for their communities.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I've been joking the last couple of weeks, and I've been saying the last 15 months, what we've done is we've eliminated Sir Mix-a-Lot from our lives. We've gotten rid of all those big buts, those things that we say, I would do this, but the buts are gone now. We've been shown that we can do the things that matter if we're forced to be creative and think outside of the box. And when educators are charged with being creative, being innovative, find a way. We find a way. We find a way to make sure that kids are being connected, find a way to make sure kids are being fed, find a way to make sure that we're learning and we're growing. We simply need that push. We need that acknowledgement. We need the affirmation. We need the empowerment from amazing people like you that say, teachers, go do it. We know you can do it because you matter. You care about kids. Go do what you do best. I love that. I love that. So as we move forward into next year, there are a lot of people that are saying this all sounds great, Sloan. It's amazing. Yes, the systems are we're starting to see some changes. We're starting to, the aircraft carrier is shifting slowly, but it's shifting, it's changing. But Sloan, I don't know if I can do this much longer. I'm exhausted. I don't know that I can stay in this race long enough to see all the changes that need to happen. What advice do you have for those of us that are just, we made it through, but we're just hanging on?
We didn't come this far to quit. Like, if we quit now, it's all for nothing. And our kids are depending on us, and the future of our society is, and the stability of our society is dependent on what we choose to do. failure is not an option. It's just so many people that have paved the way, even before COVID. So many people have sacrificed. So many people have paved the way for us. And it's like disrespectful in a way to just say, you know what? This right here is all that I can do. What I know for me has helped me in the last year is my PLN, and which is different than your PLC. I love that I have phone numbers, I have Twitter accounts, I have email addresses. I know that there's nothing that I'm going through as a professional that I can't find someone who can give me some advice that will empower me, that just will listen and let me, like I say, throw it up and throw it out. And sometimes that's all you need. That go in your room and do it by yourself mentality. What COVID taught us is we are better together. We've got to come together and decide that as a professional learning community, expanding your professional learning network, you've got to lean on people, and people want to do it because they're looking for that too, you know? And so this isolation that we do sometimes as teachers, no more of that. We've got to lean on each other and listen and respect one another and keep the students focused. But we got to take care of ourselves. And I just want to put that out there. And the way that I take care of myself, we can't, again, let's stop comparing. My self-care may be different than your self-care. That doesn't, one is not better than the other. And self-care isn't always external. Getting your nails done, going on a vacation, getting dinner. Sometimes it's just sitting quietly. Sometimes it's just sitting on your porch. Sometimes it's just listening to something funny, you know, on an audiobook or watching a TV show, and it costs you absolutely nothing. But whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, find your people, find whatever it is that makes you feel really good about yourself, tap into your greatness so that you can go out there and get back at it, because our kids are depending on us.
That's good. That's so good. So good. And I'm going to add to what you just said, and I'm going to actually give people a challenge right now.
Okay.
So two things. First of all, something you just said reminded me of something I posted recently. So I'm just going to read it real quick, and then I'm going to pivot. But I wrote a great reminder today. We spend too much energy trying to get out of the turmoil instead of spending our energy trying to learn from it. And I feel like that's kind of where a lot of people are right now. They just want to hurry up and get done with this so that they can just move on, as opposed to leaning into it and saying, what can I gain from this experience? And I'm going to use a bad analogy because I use this analogy all the time. I'm going to go back to running, something that I do all the time. Every day I go for a run. But for me, when my runs, I finish every run in a sprint, because that's the time where I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to see what I've really got. Is that last part of every single one of my runs is when I dig deep and do everything I can so that I can earn that rest that I know I've got coming. So I can earn that drink that I've got coming. So I can earn that nice hot shower, whatever the case may be. I earn it by giving it all I've got at the end. So for all the teachers and all the educators that are out there right now, yeah, we see that finish line. I know we want to get there, but I'm going to challenge you. This is that time of year where you got to lean into it and say, I'm going to learn everything I can about myself in these next 15 days, 20 days, 25 days. Earn that opportunity to reflect. Earn that opportunity to see how far you can go. This is that opportunity for you to be as innovative and creative as you've always wanted to be. This is your opportunity to make those big mistakes that you can spend the next 2.5, 3 months learning from. Learn from this opportunity. Learn from this turmoil right now. Don't just race to get through it. But that's just me. I apologize.
No, I love it. You know, just to piggyback on that, use this time to learn as much as you can about your students. You know, we've been focused so much on curriculum, and like in my area, we had so many different attendance plans depending on what our numbers look like. And so we've been through a lot. And so everyone we didn't know if we were going to do testing. And so we're just trying to get through. Well, now that we're doing testing, and the next like week or two, testing will be over. Spend those last couple of days using that creativity and that innovation to really get to know your students, because what you learn about these students this year will help you start the next year off. Because yes, your next group will have some differences, but there are a lot of similarities in what you're going to learn about your students. And then what you that sprint that you're talking about, if you're learning a whole lot about your students at the end of this year, it gives you all summer to marinate on, how can I take what I learned about this group to help me to get to know the next group? They really enjoyed that activity. Maybe I should do that at the beginning of the school year to get to know them rather than the end of the year to get to know them. And so there's always those positive things that we can find. But what we have to do is we have to be intentional about that. And that's hard. Like, that's why it's called a challenge, because it's not easy. And somebody might have looked at you like, what are you talking about? It is hard. But if we're intentional and we chunk it and we don't try to overwhelm ourselves, but we do what we know we can do, then I think it's all going to work out. And our kids are going to remember what the end of the year was like. Like, man, the end of the year was so awesome because we did this, we did that, blah, blah, blah. I wish we would have done this all year. And you're like, oh, I can do that. Let me start the school year off next year with that type of activity.
That's right. That's right. You know, learning, when I'm asked to define learning to anybody, I gave two examples of what learning is. One example of learning is simply memories. All learning is just a memory. Mm-hmm. The second example of learning is literally changing your mind. When your mind changes, you've learned. Mm-hmm. This is an opportunity these last 15, 19, 20 days for both you as the educator and for students to change minds and make memories. That's what you're doing right now. You need to focus on changing your mind and making memories, and that's when learning will happen. If you want your kids to endure, if you want your learning to endure, change your mind and make some memories. Whatever that means to you, go out there and do it. Because again, Sloan, I said this at the very beginning. That's what you did for me the last time we connected. Is I've got this memory, literally, of driving through the mountains of Pennsylvania on my way back to Michigan from Rhode Island with your thoughts bouncing around in my head. And I can remember your words in connection with the mountains of Pennsylvania. So I've got this memory now of you and this connection that's going to stick with me and truly transform the way I see things. So this is a challenge for teachers and educators. We value you so much that we're doing this every night this week. For the next couple of nights, you still have more opportunities to keep learning and growing. Challenge yourself to be there. Challenge yourself every night to get another nugget, to learn something new, to change your mind, to confront what you're currently doing. So, Sloan, I'm gonna ask you as we kind of wrap up to think, if you could challenge educators, if you could equip educators with one nugget to get them through the rest of this year, one coaching moment. If you had the opportunity to coach every educator in America to make their last month and a half of school successful, and to equip them to change a destiny, change a life. I know it's oftentimes bigger than one little nugget, but one thing to help them get through, to dig deep and to charge to the finish line. What would you have for them?
Really get to know your students. It's not too late. We learn so much from them. And what we say that we care about our kids, and to care about them is to have conversations with them, to allow them to write their thoughts and share their thoughts with us. As a teacher, what I did the last couple of years of school is I would start the first 10 days, I'd have a question of the day, and every child would have to come to my desk and I would ask them that question. And like the first question was, give me a couple of names of people who you want to make really proud of you, your schoolwork this year. Well, that gave me insight to who is important to them. Then the next day I might ask them, tell me, if you have 3 careers that you could choose once you get older, what would they be? That gave me insight. And then I was able to learn so much about those kids. And I didn't realize it, but I sometimes was the only person in that school that had asked them about something personal all day long. And so my challenge to you is to come up with a question of the day that you want all of your children to answer, so that you can get to know what matters to them. And then you can take those things that you see most often and educate yourself about those things this summer. If all of them are talking about Among Us, then you learn about Among Us. If all of them are talking about TikTok, then you learn about TikTok. Doesn't mean that you have to have a TikTok channel, but that you learn what it is and you find some TikTok videos to watch so that you can make those connections in the classroom. Use that information to help you connect with your students this year, and then give you a jump start on how you can inform yourself this summer to connect with your students next year. Because connection is the most important thing to making sure that you are going from good to better to best. Without those connections, you can't build trust. Without trust, they will do nothing for you. They will not be loyal to you because they're not sure that you'll be loyal to them. So learn your students, get to know them, make those connections, and then use that as a foundation about what you need to learn more about this summer and starting off next school year.
And that right there is why you're incredible, and why I just love listening to you speak
Thank
and listening to
you.
you preach. You lean into your students' passions and make those passions your passions, or at least
Yes.
your curiosities.
Exactly.
So good. So good. So thank you for giving up your time to help inform, educate, inspire, empower educators across the country whenever they're listening to this and watching this.
Yeah.
Educators, you are so appreciated.
Yes,
You are doing God's work. You are changing destinies, beginning with your own. So dig deep. You've got this. And
yes, you did.
Follow her advice. Follow her advice. Find the passions of your kids. Don't necessarily spend all your time this next month just focusing on the deficits and the cognitive aptitudes. Find the passions of your kids and learn from those. And in the meantime, the next couple of days, you've got lots of opportunities to continue to learn as well. You can join us in the chat tonight, Master Chat, aka Teach Better Chat. Remember, both hashtags. That's starting in just over an hour. We got Bruce Riker joining us tonight, moderating that chat, talking about using media to teach kids, which is a powerful conversation. Then we've got, I think, 3 more nights of these conversations coming up. I know tomorrow we've got Chad and Jeff. Later on this week, I got it written down here. Let me see. We got Chad and Jeff Saturday. We've got Maurice Martin and Josh joining us. And then on Sunday, we've got Ray and Liv joining us. So lots more opportunities to keep learning and growing. Or you can always just go back and listen to this again and get lots of nuggets. So Sloan, thanks so much again for joining us. You are absolutely incredible.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And everybody else, have an awesome night. We'll see you soon over in the chat.